Hello and welcome to another episode of Good for Profit. I'm your host Mo, and this is the podcast where we speak with founders, entrepreneurs, ecosystem leaders in the startup world especially, who are building businesses that are good for the world and also profitable in the process. Our guest today is Justin Hackney. Justin, aside from being the infected kid in 28 Days Later, he is also someone who's been working in the creative industry for a long time, has so much expertise in that world. He's worked as part of Mad Cow for a long time, for multiple years, numerous years, has worked on many commercials for huge brands that you'll have heard of. He's produced short films, music videos, a whole bunch of things. And now he has built an AI community based out of East London, which is where I currently reside as well. And so all the more connections that we have together. Justin is co-founder at Real Dreams, realdreams.io or Real Dreams on Instagram. They are a community of creatives and AI enthusiasts who are using just all of the latest AI tools out there to create incredibly creative work. And it really is quite fascinating, the work they're doing out there. I think it's going to have a huge impact on how things go in the future. The future is clearly going to be populated with a lot of these AI tools, with a lot of AI produced content. And I think Real Dreams are definitely paving the way to establish how these things will work. You know, how are we going to make sure that there is the collaboration between AI and between creatives in that space? Recently, we were aware of the whole scenario when you had a photographer you generate a photo using AI, and then that photo won an award. And then he sort of went on stage and said, actually, this was generated by an AI that didn't take that photo, but he did it to raise awareness of the fact that AI is now very much here and very much being used in the creative space. Now, Justin is somebody who is so enthusiastic about it. His optimism is really contagious when it comes to AI. He's a true wizard in the wizard profit kind of equation. He's a true wizard, in my opinion. And his optimism is just incredible. I think the work they're doing is really fascinating. The conversation today ranged all the way from talking about, you know, what's happening now with AI, where it's going to go in the future, how are these tools being used in the AI in the creative space, talking about the fact that they've used AI to create music videos and to bring people back from the dead, so to speak, and talked about how AI is really something that we can't run away from now. It's here to stay, it's not going anywhere, and that we have to make sure that we are deliberate in our approach to using it well and writing guidelines around it properly. Instead of trying to stop it or slow it down, we should really make sure that we steer it in the right direction. I think it was a really interesting take on it. The conversation inspired a lot of thoughts for me, and I'm hoping that it will do the same for you as well. Justin's just an incredible human, and I can't have enough of speaking with him. So I will be bringing him back on the podcast at some point in the future. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy the conversation just as much as I did. So without further ado, here is our conversation today with Justin Hackney. All right. Hello and welcome back. Justin, welcome, my friend, to the podcast. So good to have you with us, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
It's amazing to have you. We were just talking before tuning in here that Justin's been away in a wild and beautiful place for a little while. So just wanted to make everybody jealous.
A bit of sun and sea. Why not? London's a bit hectic, right? Sometimes you got to just get out of here.
Yeah, take a little break, right? I'm actually taking this out of Abu Dhabi right now.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah,
it's
a little bit here and there. Yeah, so I mean, we're looking at expanding the company out here.
Right.
So I've been traveling back and forth a little bit to kind of understand what's going on and look at the local market and so on. And I think, I mean, it looks like there's a great opportunity here for us. So realistically speaking, I'm going to be back and forth quite a lot now.
Jet setter, man. Love
Mate,
it.
tell me about it. I mean, I'm literally looking right now. The view in front of me is ocean. So
come on, show
the horizon.
me. Show me.
The horizon is right there.
Yeah,
right there. I guess I'll show you.
And I've got a swimming pool behind here, and
all right, show off.
Yeah, I'm joking. I wish.
You're a legend, mate.
I'd love to come out at some point,
mate. Really absolutely. Come out sometime. I think you'd love it. They're really making a hard push here on arts and culture and trying to bring people from different places around the world to showcase their work from a creative point of view, which is what we're going to talk about today quite a lot, right?
Nice.
I mean,
nice. Yeah, let's
go. You've had quite the journey, my friend. I was first of all, we had a conversation a little while ago, and I absolutely loved every part of it. we just kept talking and talking and talking and kept thinking, okay, we should save it for the podcast, right? Let's save it for the actual episode that
My
we're going to do
problem,
together.
I'm a talker.
Well, luckily for you, I am too, but I'll try and hold back today, and because I'm just more curious to understand more about you, man. Dude, so you are currently involved with an incredible community of AI enthusiasts in Hackney. I wanted to ask you about the name, by the way, because I didn't ask about that last time.
Real Dreams.
Okay, go on, James.
So, I mean, unless you've got a specific question, it's like some often like people are like, what's the meaning? Is there a meaning? And I believe like when we were really tackling some of the first image generation stuff, it was so mind blowing. And it didn't take a while to imagine how far this stuff's going to go. And so I was like, wow, the lines between reality and what's not are getting blurred quite quickly. And so this thing came into my head. It was like, well, I like that yin and yang. I like the balance of what's not real and what is. And that's kind of a big part of what I've always done is bring ideas to life. So I was like, well, Real Dreams. There was a few of us actually, and it all kind of just was sitting around the table downstairs trying to come up with ideas, names and stuff like that. And boom, it just kind of, I said it and everyone was like, yeah, Real Dreams. Oh, I love it. Bang, slap it on everything, logos. And we had that was right at the beginning. The kind of community was already forming, and it was more a case of like, we have to make sense of this. We have to call it something, and we need to, get a website going, get some branding for the events and stuff like that. So
I love it. You did it the right way around, I'd say. I think quite often, it goes the other way around. It's like, oh, I've got this great name and potential idea around it. Let me go and see what happens. Whereas in your case, it's actually community driven first. Things were out there, and then you thought, okay, we need to find a name for this. Funnily enough, you mentioned Real Dreams. I actually wasn't talking about that name. I was talking about your name. But
Justin Hackney.
Nonetheless, I love it. Yeah, because it's an East London community, right? And I was thinking, did you change your name to Hackney, or is that just a nice coincidence?
Get a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
A lot. And you've got to imagine, like, I'm from East as well, right? And I'm living in Hackney. And so you ask for, you go around and someone asks for your name, or you're going to the doctors or something, and everyone gives me a look like I'm an asshole. Everyone gives me this look like I'm this hipster, like, oh, I love it. Change my name.
I was meant to live in Hackney, mate.
Yeah, man.
I was born for this.
Truth is, it's just a mad coincidence,
Wow.
I was brought up in Bethnal Green. For a short bit of time, I was out in Mile End, and now I'm back in Hackney, pretty much, where I started, round the corner from my mum. So I've just always lived here. And to be honest, when I was a kid, East London was not the place I wanted to be. I had big dreams of beautiful areas, luscious parks. And do you know what? They ended up being East London. I don't know what happened, but the vibe of this whole area's changed. It's like
massive change over the last 10 years, right?
Before they pumped in so much. And I think because a lot of younger creatives kind of moved to Hackney, East London, to study and to find cheaper places to stay originally, it just became quite, there was a lot on, there's a lot here, a
lot of cool kids, right?
Lots of cool kids. It's becoming a bit too cool for school now.
I get what you mean. I recently went on a trip to this was like sort of end of last year. I went on a trip to Sardinia in Italy, and then the east side, mind you, not the north side, or which is where all the yachts are and stuff. The east side is way better, way better. It's much more rural and a lot more fun. Anyway, so we went there and we're going for a trip around there and having an incredible time. And everybody's just kind of just a lot of local Italians, amazing food, amazing wine, and the people are just kind of real in a way. And then kind of came back. I just remember the moment when we stepped off the tube in Dalston Junction. And we're walking around, we're thinking, wow, okay, everybody here is way too cool for the vibe that we're feeling right now,
I go for a coffee. I take my dog for a walk in the morning for a coffee, and I feel like I've walked onto like a fashion shoot.
Yeah, exactly.
Like everyone pristine, the things and the looks, and like everyone's got a look, and it's
super cool.
There I am, just kind of what I've thrown together to take the dog for a walk. So it's like, wow.
Mate, honestly, I'm pretty sure you fit right in. I mean, given that you're a proper creative soul, don't even try to play that, man. I'm pretty sure you fit right in. So
Cheers. It's not bad. That's the thing. I'm quite comfortable here now, so I'm going to stay here for
Nice.
as long as I can sustain this Justin Hackney thing, and then. But for me, like the big thing is going to be to try and really expand and try and move around the world as much as I can.
Mm,
I don't want to be bound by the place I grew up in. And a lot of my work's taken me abroad, and I've worked kind of internationally thanks to commercial work and to filmmaking.
I
But I'd
definitely
love
want
to. I don't know. You probably have this. So many people I know, they're brought up in one place, then move to another place. They've kind of got two homes, maybe three
absolutely,
homes, like these
absolutely.
places they can bounce back and forth between. Whilst like East is really where I live. So I'm having to try and at the moment like go further afield, try and find what my second base would
Mm.
be, which is fun.
It
It's just
must be.
fun.
It's an interesting adventure to go through, right? I mean, funnily enough, you say second home, first home, and so on. For me, actually, it's a weird one. I've always felt like London's my home because that's kind of where I grew up since I was 12. But at the same time, there was always an element of, okay, well, but also there's the Egyptian side of me, which is, back in Egypt. And that's also that was a home for a long time. And then this became a home. And in a way, I've always felt like I'm just a child of just the planet. Like,
The
it's
planet, really.
yeah, as in it doesn't matter.
You a Gaia
home is
baby.
wherever you make home,
Yeah, no, it's true.
I
But there
mean,
is
Gaia
like
is my
when
secondary. No.
you say that Egyptian in me, it's like there is that I think like no matter what people say, there is always that point in your life where you're like, wait, who the fuck? Where do I come from? Where
Yeah,
do I actually come from? I know we are all one, but also there's like specific genetics in me and a touch of more of this
absolutely.
and a touch more of that, and I haven't really even had the chance to explore that.
Mm,
A lot of people I know, because it's a very multicultural place, East London. Like I went to
it's
primary
incredible.
school called Bangabangdu in Morpeth. I was kind of the minority there, being a white boy. And so you have all these people with all this multicultural experience, and like some of them feel like had these kind of identity crisis in a way, growing up like, I'm not East, or I'm not London, or I'm not like where. But actually, they're kind of from a much younger age in touch with stuff that's part of their history. A lot of white boys just don't have that. A lot of
Mm.
like we're just, and then I think it's
Yeah,
just they attach
that's
themselves to
interesting.
like football or something.
Yeah, yeah, that's why it becomes a religion, right? And then that's it.
Yeah, totally,
You got to find a group that you belong to in some way because it's difficult to find one such a multicultural place, isn't it?
totally. And I
It's really
think like
fascinating. Yeah,
to kind of circle back to real James in a way, it's like what I am finding is my religion, my people, the kind of like the type of people with that kind of mindset that's understanding what's happening, driven towards the future, kind of like proactively engaging with this thing because they understand what that says about humanity, technology, reality, like all of these
mm.
kind of bigger things. But that group kind of lives online. So
Mm.
a big thing we've been trying to do is meetups, and I'm not the only one. There's a few different like AI communities where they're trying to
Sure.
really push for people in this space who are interested like this, kind of to kind of meet up, communicate, to connect, to go through some of these things because um not only is it a minefield of new technology and every single day it's rapidly evolving, there's like lots to take in, but it's also a bit of a mind bender on some of this stuff. And
Absolutely.
so I think it actually takes a lot of people to kind of support that line of thinking, because the kind of conversations we're probably going to have today, if we had them about a year ago or just before just before DALI came out or Playground or ChatGPT was kind of like entered the, I think most people listening would think, yeah, these guys are smoking one. They're like they're thinking about something that's maybe 50, 100 years in the future, like sci-fi stuff, fantasy.
Absolutely.
Yet, like now it's here today. So, just trying to find my tribe, man.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time to be involved in all of that, man. Because, like you said, it's so new. But I always ask myself whether this was the case back when the .com boom was happening, or bubble, or whatever you want to call it. And I always think like, did it feel the same way? Because the crazy thing right now is that there's so much going on, but at the same time, it's moving so fast. Like it's just incredibly difficult for someone who's somewhat interested in AI to keep up with everything. And so, you know, in a way, part of what I'm hoping to achieve today as well through our conversation is to kind of give people an insight of what it's like to be on the inside of an AI community that is just so on the forefront of everything with real dreams, and not just obviously to be in it, but also to be someone who's leading and kind of, you know, pushing that forward. That's something I'm really curious to understand, because to me, look, I love AI, right? Realistically speaking, I can't keep up to date with everything that's going on right now in that world. I can't. There's so much happening. Our team members are incredible at looking at different tools out there and seeing how we can use them in business and so on. And part of me felt a little bit overwhelmed at one point by just the sheer amount of stuff that keeps popping up. How do you guys, you know, how do you deal with that?
How do you deal with it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually quite tough. It's quite tough, and it's been a very last year and a half. It's been a lot, I think, for a lot of people, especially coming out of lockdown and COVID and having kind of this craziness already happening, and there's suddenly this technology that's evolving so rapidly. I'd be honest with you, it's hard for us to keep up. It's hard for OpenAI to keep up. It's hard for Stability AI to keep up. It's hard for Google to keep up. I think now it's kind of truly gone open source. We're seeing kind of unprecedented evolution and rapid progression of this technology. And I think it's going to be almost impossible for everyone to keep up for a while. And there will probably be a point in which all of this settles for a bit. And we all have this technology on our phone and we're getting used to it. But it's going to be like us getting used to mobile phones and the internet and that, like everything you can do on that. But instead of giving us like 10, 20 years, it's like you're going to give us 2-3 years.
It's condensed.
Yeah, it's very condensed.
Yeah.
And so the best way I'm dealing with everything, because it can become overwhelming, and I'm like, well, I can't keep on top of every iteration of technology, learn how to use that, employ that, show that we've used that, and then by the time that's out, there's this, and then, oh my god, look, what a distraction, because there's all these other things and we could be using that to grow the business rather than create stuff. So there's all this stuff, and you know, this is why it is important for people to come together. You'd be surprised what sitting in a room with 10 other people, different fields, but all interested in this stuff, worried, scared, optimistic, like excited. When you got that sort of character, kind of like yourself, dude, you know, where oh my god, what is this going to be? And you're talking about these things, I think you quite easily settle in a kind of an idea of what it's going to be like. That no matter what the technology kind of looks like, you know where your place within that world is. And what I kind of mean by that is, and this is what I think scares a lot of people, I think deep down we all know where this is going. Like, there's different
do we want to talk about it? Go on.
Well, there's different outcomes, but I think because we know how impactful this technology is, we're kind of, and we don't necessarily know the outcome. It's just like any situation we're faced with, when there's an unknown, we humans can freak out massively.
Yeah, we do love certainty.
But actually, if you like kind of close your eyes and you look in and you think like, doesn't matter about everyone else. What do I want for this reality? What can I do if I had like a personal assistant AI to do absolutely anything? Create video content, create audio, create, you know, like book meets. What if I could absolutely turn on God mode? What would I do? Then actually it starts to become a lot more kind of relaxing in the mind. You can kind of focus it in a bit more. And this is this is what's fantastic about AI. It's going to empower the individual. And I think a lot of people were scared if governments, corporations, whatever, have this technology and they use it against us. But they're not understanding that this is coming out to us individually. Like, we all have this. Bigger places can be building this tech, but it's becoming accessible for us to use in our own way for free. So it's only going to be a dystopia if that's what we're worried about and we do nothing about it. If we continue to worry and to bicker while this tsunami of tech comes our way, and we're like shouting about like what we're doing, should we build a bridge? And it's like, nah, let's build a boat. Let's come together, let's build a boat. We don't necessarily know where it's going. It's going to take us to new lands, but that's okay. Humans know what we need now. We should do. We kind of know how we should look after the earth, how to be sustainable. We know that there's automation and so many different things that could alleviate lots of kind of, laborious work. We could, the benefits to, the medical field through AI is just ridiculous. The amount of lives you can save. So there's loads of benefits to all this tech. I think we're focused in on the negative a lot because of how we've been affected by the generation of technology we've lived through, and how like our data points have been kind of used against us in a way. And because of like science fiction and Black Mirror and movies, we've been slowly drip fed stuff to kind of make us feel like, and do you know what? When humans are kind of screaming and kind of like, I don't know what to do, like, we're paralyzed by it and we do nothing. So, and my biggest fear is, and this has happened as of yesterday, or, they're putting out this thing now, EU, they want to slow down, if not stop, open source development of this technology. And they want to put on like massive, law bans and all of this stuff, restrictions, because I guess, and I understand this for security reasons, like they can't necessarily control it. I don't really want to live in a world which is fully controlled. And I also don't think we should control AI really, or us with it, and who has that AI, how it interacts with us, how we interact with it, where that data flows, whatever. I don't think we should really even consider what that control looks like until we've had a bit more chance of an experience as individuals to have access to this. So really, if I could just like wave a wand, I would get this sort of technology into workshops on TV and like educate as many people on the earth about what's there and what's available now, what they can use, and then start actually having proper conversations about where this stuff goes without the fear mongering. I am rambling a little bit now, but dystopia,
this is incredible.
All the negative stuff that comes up within this space a lot, and it's difficult for me because I had that very much at the beginning, and you wade through it, and I had like Danny Boyle around here, and he's going, and we're speaking to universities, and they're pulling their hair out, and everyone's kind of having these freak out moments. But I just don't know what everyone's so scared of. I think if anything, like kind of humans are the problem in a big way, because you give humans power and we can get greedy. Give people too much control and not as many like consequences for their action, like things can get a bit out of hand. And I think really this is the big shift, and we kind of already do it anyway. We're leaning on technology right now to have this call, and I believe it's true,
of course,
right?
I mean, I'm literally on the other side of the planet right now, and
I think we should lean on technology to do a lot of the stuff that we're feeling is failing us at the moment.
Mate, there's so much to unpack here. And okay, let me start with so this is really fascinating, and your take on it is really interesting. Obviously, in the introduction to this episode, there is an explanation of what Real Dreams do, so people will have a bit of background on the community and what you guys do. So that will help. I would love for you to also tell us in a minute more about that and kind of your journey to there as well, and kind of go through that. But first, let's try and unpack a lot of this craziness. So you have a really interesting take on that, because there's a lot of people that I've spoken with, and there's obviously a lot of this in the media as well, of saying we need government to put some regulations in place to slow things down, to make sure it doesn't get out of hand. Because otherwise, how will we know when it gets out of hand? Almost like, what is the is there a marker that we can look to say, okay, this is becoming a little bit too crazy now? We can't actually control all of this AI that's on the market. We can't tell anymore who's human, who is AI online in the internet. How do we deal with that? And in a way, a lot of people I've spoken with have kind of sided with saying, okay, let's take the slightly safer approach just so that we don't mess things up in a way that can't be reversed, right? So really interesting to get your thoughts on that. And because you mentioned the whole EU saying we want to slow down or stop things.
I mean, okay, if I don't disagree with it slowing down, when Elon said it, I was like, you started this, so it's like,
well, isn't he also creating his own one now?
Chiming in that, he's like, he's my hero, but he's like, chiming in now, slow it down. I don't disagree with everyone just taking the chill pill a little bit, but do you know what that would be? That feels like corporations, governments, like powerful places going, holy crap, this is happening. We need to actually invest a bit more into this, understand it, how to kind of control it.
And how to monetize it.
And what will happen in that period is, we won't hear about it. We'll just be distracted by other stuff going on in the world. And at that point, all these rules will be made for us and they won't benefit us as individuals. We're going through a shift now. And I think this shift gives every single individual kind of more power through technology and ability to, like, imagine models have already kind of worked out where you can get paid for, people going on your YouTube, on your TikTok, or your whatever. I think this should be applied with advertising, with everything, basically. And we should have kind of like digital passports and everything, digital identities and stuff like that. But I think the rules for how all of this works should be kind of
bottom up.
It should be our choice. It should be everyone's choice. It's kind of like we're kind of rewriting some of the rule books with this stuff. We kind of have to, and I think it requires everyone's attention and everyone's understanding how far it's going to go, what's real, what's not. That they could, it's everyone needs an understanding of it. And I think if I again could wave a magic wand, sure, slow it down. But I would want to see that money that they're investing in is going. It's not just spending on engineers, developers. Like, how can we monetize this? I'd want them going to real communities, actually doing a lot of, like, going to places where the people might not even touch this technology. Like, not just tech heads like me and communities that we build that can understand all this. It's brilliant. Yeah, we have a great understanding of how it is, how it's going to affect creativity, how it's going to affect education, all these different areas. But, like, I think it's the greatest joy we had at the beginning of Real Dreams. And honestly, I kind of wish I was still doing this. Greg and I, the co-founder, we were going out into the streets with Dali on our mobile phone. And we'd go up to just absolute individuals. We were outside a mosque. We were going into shops. And this was really led by our curiosity. We were going up to people and showing them Dali and how it works. And this was before anyone had heard anything about it. So a lot of people just couldn't truly understand what it was, whether it was a search engine. To then be able to discuss what that meant for people and what they thought that could be, we're getting much better responses from people who weren't really living digital lives.
Really? That's fascinating.
Yes. Wow. Like specifically, I was just out in Tanzania. I was doing some filming there, and we were showing some educators there, and a different approach out there. They're like, yeah, sign us up, get us on, even if we need a VPN, we're going to just start using this stuff to educate people. Here, no, we're going to need many, maybe a year or two of regulation and laws and stuff before it even is in the schools, right? Even though the kids, they're using it. So this is kind of like an issue. It's like,
well, that's a whole other thing in its own right. I mean, education has always been so slow to catch on with technology. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah. Things come out, technology comes out, and yeah.
I just my fear is that we're quite slow. We're quite slow to keep up with things, and I don't think halting progression or like allowing people to access this stuff is really going to push things forward in the way they want. I think really, if they really want to like improve this, it's just more of a focus on potentially speaking with different communities, including Real Dreams, and there's others out there, to really get a grasp of how far this will go, where the issues may lie, and how to kind of battle
That's
the conversations out there with this.
And that's actually a really important point, because I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. I haven't spoken to any government experts about this, or anyone in working on the regulation side of things here, but I really would be curious as to how much conversation they're having with people who are at the forefront of this on the ground. And like, you've got, for example, you've got your own community, you've got Real Dreams as a community. You guys do incredible work. Some of the videos you've produced, you've got stuff that's going into potential up for awards and festivals. You've got connections with a lot of incredible people in the creative industry, especially through your work previously with Matt Cow. I would imagine that you've got quite a bit of exposure here, and people should be aware of your community and what you're doing. I'd be curious to understand, like, how much potential conversations, or sort of how many opportunities you've had to be able to speak with people who are in the regulation side of things on this, or whether anyone's reached out or anything like
in
that.
terms of politics, the furthest we went was with the Swedish embassy, and they introduced us to loads of different people, and I think they just found me out on LinkedIn because of the link for the they saw something that was posted, and they just asked for a meeting. And next thing I know, we're doing a speech at their tech forum, and we're meeting loads of people in this space. But I think still at that point, it was like, oh my God, what is this? It's not like, okay, what do we do? And that's what, to be honest, that's kind of what made me so driven at the beginning to be like, do you know what? I am going to quit my job. I am going to push this, and I'm going to drive Real Dreams, because I'm speaking with high-level educators, places within politics, places with tech, places within like OpenAI, all these places, and I don't think everyone else truly knows what's going to happen, and they're kind of waiting. And I went to this kind of I went to this Meta event like 2 years ago. It was a different sort of tech forum. And I remember them getting up and saying, oh, like there was a statistic, 80% of our time in 3 years or something is going to be spent in the metaverse, but we don't necessarily know what that statistic means. We don't know where the technology is going to be. We don't know whether. So it's like, I was thinking when they said that, it's like, you've obviously pulled this statistic from some algorithm.
Yeah.
You know that this technology is going to kind of expand and do something crazy, but you don't necessarily know how that's going to look like, what the metaverse is going to be, like how it's going to completely... Like, how's that going to exist, and how do we interact with it? And I think now what we're seeing is the creative and the engineering community building that.
Yeah.
This is what we're seeing. We're seeing people be able to create simulated kind of virtual environments using stable diffusion. So you can say, oh, put me into a rainforest, and you can kind of walk around it.
Which is so much more interesting than being handed an environment by a massive corporate or a massive company of some sort, right? It really is a bottom-up approach, and that's actually, I never looked at it like that, but that's a really good point.
This is what's going to happen, I think.
Yeah.
The same way Facebook came out of nothing, same way as, when there's a new time like this, I think, and a new technology, I think it always benefits the kind of open source community. There's always going to be something comes up from the ground, and that's probably because bigger companies, they have so much going on to get a thing done. It requires all of this stuff. They can't move as fast as an engineer could online, where no one's telling them squat about what they can and cannot do.
Absolutely, but also there's a lot of freedom in being a small startup or being a small community, being something that's on the forefront, because any corporate company, any company that's big enough now to have multiple streams of revenue or whatever, if they want to go into something like this, it's usually going to mean that they have to sacrifice something else. So this is also why, like, when you speak with a lot of startups who say, oh, well, why haven't X, Y, and Z done this before? They have the technology to do that. Well, yeah, they haven't done it because if they do that, it will completely mess up their revenue model right now. So just because they haven't done it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, right? If you think it's a good solution and it's going to disrupt things, absolutely go for it. So big companies usually have multiple reasons as to why they don't act as fast and don't necessarily disrupt their own current, status quo way of doing things. So yeah, it's really interesting to look at it this way, that this is kind of a bottoms up approach of how it's done.
Yes.
So now I can understand your point of view of saying, okay, well, regulation, if it's going to stop it or slow it down, that's not going to work in favor of the individual. It's going to work more in favor, I suppose, of the established companies with a lot of funding and time on their hands.
Yes, totally.
But
Gives them a bit more time. Yeah.
Here's another interesting thing though here that might be worth discussing. So so it's effectively we're saying that the democratic approach or the bottom up approach is hopefully going to be the right way forward, and the what will guarantee kind of like the best outcome in the end for the individuals. How do you? Is this kind of like, we are going to be hopeful and say that 90% of the players are going to be good players and there's going to be just a few bad actors that will eventually get snuffed out or whatever? Or how do you kind of make sure that the individual, because humans are interesting creatures, right? I mean, we do good and bad, right? We're definitely capable of both. And there are people out there who just are purely interested in their own self-preservation or their own advancement or whatever, and they might end up being bad actors, right? So I guess it's a tough one. How do you balance that out, and how do you do it in a way so that you enable communities?
Totally. I think I see, like, imagine you're a kid.
Imagine
you're we're a kid. You're kids.
Sure.
You go to a playground for the first time. It looks very fun and exciting. There's many benefits to learning how to use these things, but you don't necessarily know if you're going to fall or not. But the second you do fall, single second someone does fall, the whole crowd can see, oh yeah, don't do that. If there's a group of people like, oh yeah, don't make that mistake. We have to make mistakes in order to progress. We have to. And with AI, we're going to have to make some mistakes to progress. I would much rather those mistakes to be smaller, by smaller individuals who have less power, who are doing something, showing something to the internet, and it maybe has like a bit of an effect that can then be squashed, and we all draw focus to it, and how can we prevent that? When a big company makes a mistake, it's a much bigger deal. It's a much bigger deal. It has a lot more impact. It's on the platform that we use. It's the government, I would much prefer to see little fires being put out as we engineer and progress with these tools, rather than 4 years down the line, we're like, oh my God, we're living in even more of a bubble. Our time is swapped for credits or something, and everyone's losing their jobs, and there's no social security, and there's no, blah, 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 like I really truly believe that it's not going to turn Terminator on us because of one dude in a room, right?
That's an interesting argument. Yeah, that's
it's just
argument.
Not. One person could do something quite crazy, but I just nothing as crazy as the power of a massive corporation.
Do you not think,
it would be good to see a ground, like something come out from the ground. It's grassroots. People adopt that platform or way of communicating, or way of sharing work, making money, whatever. And as people adopt it, it becomes the norm. The rules change, and it's like the beginning of a new platform, like Facebook or something.
It's really interesting. So that kind of brings us on quite nicely to what you guys are doing right now with Real Dreams. Can you tell us in your own words kind of what is Real Dreams, and what's been the journey so far up to where you are now?
So like at the beginning, I was very lucky to gain access to OpenAI's tech very early on. and it was a small group of people on Discord, and we didn't really know what we was dealing with. So I had to start putting on workshops kind of in London, because the second I started showing people online, a lot of people didn't believe it was real. And some people were scratching their heads, not understanding, wanting to know, and some people were kind of scared. And I thought I actually owed it to everyone to go and show them what it was. There's no tricks. This isn't a cult, you know, like this isn't some inner circle. This is going to be rolled out to everyone, and everyone's going to have the skill, like this ability to do this, which freaked out a lot of people. So I went into universities, we went into schools, we was doing stuff with the Swedish embassy, and it was becoming quite intense, the amount I had to say the same things and reassure people. And
Wow.
so we decided to stick a company name on it, to set up a non-profit and an LTD, and to get a space in Shoreditch in East London, like a workshop space where we could put on events for a couple months, which were free for people to come to. They could walk in off the street, or they could buy a free ticket online. And we did events based on like all different areas of the field. So we did product design, we did architecture, we did fashion design, we did physical art, we did filmmaking, we did all sorts. And that allowed me to, because I've got a background in creativity, advertising, filmmaking, and because of that, fashion, music, so I was able to get my circles and also the community's circles, because they all invite people to come through to these events just to discuss where ChatGPT, these language models and these image models are going to go, and where they're going to take us. And out of that, that whole experience was fantastic. It connected so many people to so many different things. And I think ultimately allowed us to kind of talk about these mind-bending, kind of scary stuff together, make sense of it, and then be in a position where, right, how do we use this right now? And I think that's where everyone should be. It's like, these tools exist, how do we use them right now? So after that, I'd exhausted myself somewhat, because I spent a lot of my own money. We had no funding or whatever, but this is really what I wanted to do. I wanted to share this with as many people as possible, so we can all support each other, But the tools were good, and we were loving messing around with them. And I was like, okay, enough talking. Now I'm going to start making. I've been a director and filmmaker for like 12 years now, and
talking too much isn't your forte, right?
So yeah, I like
it
talking.
It isn't.
I'm also an introvert, and I love going in and working. So we've got these calls, and so the last kind of half year, we've just been doing music video after music video, experimental fashion, some small commercial stuff. Like I've got a gig for Clark's coming up, and it's been great because we're being able to try. Well, we're pioneering in this space
with AI, right? So just to clarify,
with AI. So whenever there's a new tool that allows you to do something completely different, we're mashing that with a creative process that we know, and we're bringing them together to make a new piece of work that allows people to talk about it. And it ties in the whole, wow, look at the tech, but also what does this mean about us and like intellectual property and stuff like that. So like an example of that.
Yeah.
An example of that is we trained an AI on someone's late grandmother, an artist called Shay Lingo, who's represented by Idris Elba for Seven Wallace.
Amazing video, by the way. If listeners haven't seen it, definitely go and check it out. It's on. You posted it on your LinkedIn as well, right?
So it's on LinkedIn. Yeah, it's probably the best.
The song is great, and the video is great as well. So
man, it was low budget. I don't even want to say how low budget, but
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I looked at every single penny of that, even though I need to make rent and stuff. I looked at every single penny of that and was like, no, let's put this all in. I made it difficult for myself, but I had to, because a lot of people online, because the previous music video we did was a fully generated, we never shot a thing, of a guy called Moody Jones. And all he did is send us pictures of himself. We trained an AI model, and then we put him in loads of situations. And that was like the first music video, fully AI generated with an artist. And that was just to show we could do it. But then all the DOPs and the creatives in my field were going like, yeah, but what does that mean about us? How do you apply this to something that's been shot? How do you kind of bring those two worlds together? So we was like, do you know what? Let's not just shoot digital for the Shay Lingo video. Let's shoot on 16mm film, like an old school roll of film. Slot it in. You only get one shot to like chance to really shoot on the roll. Like the sound's done separately, so you sync it up.
Love it.
A real physical medium, which was fantastic. How can we get that and trying to get that look through to AI, and then train AIs on him and his like grandmother, so that we can bring them into this space together. And we did, you know, I'll be honest with you, you know, about 70% of the stuff we generated for his grandmother and for him and stuff was not usable.
No way. Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, wow.
It's
So
less usable. I mean, there's just like you cherry pick these moments, and it's a whole different way of,
gosh, that's a lot of work.
as a filmmaker, kind of putting together a story or putting together something, because you're leaning on the footage of the AI. Sometimes you're steering it, and it can go wrong. But it's like, yeah, 80% was not usable. And you get these, but then you get these lovely moments that speak through to you, or speak, you know, and all I can say was the second Shay came round to sit down on the computer and watch it for the first time, about halfway through, I'll never forget this, about halfway through the video, and I'm quite nervous. He hasn't seen anything.
Of course.
His grandmother. It's his grandmother. We've brought her into these things. It's a bit morbid sometimes when you're generating, just because it's not perfect.
Sure.
There's all like I felt like, thank God we got their permission from the family and him, because there was an element when I was doing it, was like, does she want me doing this? Is this right? So he was playing it for the first time, and we're like, I could not breathe. And I'm, you know, this is a small music video, but it meant a lot to me in this moment, because how would he react? And halfway through the video, there's a moment where a photograph that we had of her, she's like picking a flower, and she looks up at the into the lens and looks at you. And we didn't ask for that. It just kind of, it was the thing that happened through the generations. And I knew it had to be in the car. At that moment, he slapped spacebar on the keyboard, and I thought, oh my God, he's going to hit me or something. Like, oh God, it's too much. Like, he's pissed off. But he became quite emotional. And we both hugged him. And at that moment, I was just overwhelmed. I was just like, done it. I don't care if it like can't be released. I did that for him, and that's done it for me. So. And at that moment, you know, it's like, realize, wow, this is where we are today. Being able to create 12 images of someone who's gone, and bring them back into a space enough to make someone like have an emotional reaction to that, to be happy, to feel like they want to see more. That made me feel like, oh God, it's a beautiful thing. It's so beautiful, but also, it means that I have no choice about if people bring me back now. And there's much more data points on me than 12 vintage photographs. I'm on podcasts, I do speeches. Unfortunately, this voice is everywhere. And and there's pictures of me.
Fortunately, right?
Unfortunately. So
fortunately for your loved ones who will want to bring you back in the future, right?
Totally. And this is the way I always lean. It's like the positive, right? That's going to be great for people, to bring back loved ones and all of this stuff. But there's also a part of me goes, death is an important thing. Having something come and go is just a necessity of life. It's a big thing for us as humans to now start to grapple with the idea of eternity. Obviously, well, I don't necessarily think that would be me living on. But it's kind of like a lot of people try in this world, I think, to push to have some sort of, leave some sort of mark.
It is,
and I feel like now it doesn't matter. You always be that, like, you're accessible, and so everyone's a hero now. And there is still a question of the soul and stuff, but does it really matter for other people if I can bring you back, Mo, and it's like chatting with you, and we just no one can tell the difference.
So it's a really good question.
That's a crazy space to live in, you know. So
you know, I remember when on a very basic level around this, when somebody passed away, like, so a close friend of mine passed away. And the Facebook page was still up and running. And it's such a basic thing, right? But their Facebook profile and Instagram were still up. And well, somebody else now was managing that, but it was still there. And so there is this kind of thing that is, but was it in a way, you know, in our modern day and age, is a part of who that person was to me, right? He was a friend. He was someone I loved deeply. He was someone I shared a lot of great memories with. He was someone who I liked photos in his Instagram, and I checked out different photos they had on there and videos and shit like that. So in a way, that kind of became a part of who he is as well, even though of course it's not him, but that's part of who he was in a way. And for that to then continue living on, that was like the first layer of, I guess you could even take it further back and think photos, right? Like, you know, imagine back in the day when we had no photos of anyone. And then suddenly, oh shit, we can have a photo of someone and they can be with us.
So now everyone can be remembered, you know?
Exactly. And imagine
you
the
have
future
to be quite wealthy
where
and rich to have a statue of you, or to have someone paint
exactly, someone
your
paint you. Yeah,
painting.
that's the only
And
way.
suddenly now
right?
there's pictures, and now now you don't even need to pay someone to come take a flash photo of you, you know, on still plate
exactly.
or on a glass sheet. Or like now you got this, and
Mate,
for some
now
reason
you can buy
everyone
a phone
took like
for
infinite selfies of themselves. It's like everyone wanted to be uploaded. Like,
it's so interesting.
You know, and the technology is so incredible now that you only need 10 photos or less. You only need 30 seconds or a minute of your voice to get something.
I was really surprised by that. You mentioned you did it with 8 photos. Was that it for the grandmother video?
Yeah, 8, 12. Like we had to doctor some of them. It's we got a guy.
Genuinely surprised. I thought it would take a lot more than that.
No.
Wow.
No. It's come so far.
Clearly.
You know, soon you will only need a photo, like one.
Do you think?
I mean, obviously, you know, like in the same way that you can look at you could look at a new face from one angle and kind of fill in the gaps because you've seen so many faces. You're making
such a good point. Yeah.
You know, so obviously if you've got more data, you're gonna it's gonna be better because there might be some asymmetry stuff you don't see. But generally speaking, like you look at most things and you can kind of imagine what's behind them and around.
I mean, your imagination is not always accurate, but it's always, you know, pretty good to you because you imagined it, right? So at least that will be the case. But yeah, I suppose maybe eventually what you'll need is just, you know, like a side, front, and that's it. As long as you can get those, then I'd imagine that's kind of like the minimum, maybe. I don't know.
That's it. And I think most of us have that data out there.
Oh, definitely. I mean, nowadays we 100%. Yeah, it's. I think bringing us back to life with AI is not going to be a problem in that sense at all. I guess next stage.
Do you know what the data is? The data that is missing on people.
Go on.
There's like there's been a lot for, and I think this might be the final shift of like the final data like rush and war is like. There's a lot of data points on our decisions, and I think a lot of those decisions online, what we buy, how long we have an attention span for different things, blah, 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 kind of creates these character profiles on us. You know, like, and that's been used to advertise to us and all that stuff, right? You've got these data points on people, and so you can kind of build a good character description about that person. But do you know what you don't? Do you know what you don't have? And this is the final layer. This is the true layer of every individual. And I think this is really what unites us all. It's whether you're Mother Teresa or Hitler. Is actually deep down. Take all the other layers off about who we are and what we do and stuff like that. If you really, really deeply connect with someone emotionally, and it's often sometimes reserved for couples who are only allowing that one person to really, you know every darkness and thing. But like when you get down that deep, we're all the fucking same. We're all lovely. We all want good. You know, it's reality that shapes us, I think. And I think to get those sort of data points on people, like the truth, like the stuff the therapist would know, the stuff the girlfriend, the boyfriend, to let AI or technology kind of in slightly more deeply, I think would probably show a much better version of humanity than we're presenting now.
Wow. So you're a believer that deep down inside every person, no matter how evil they are, there is good.
Totally. I think, yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Like their reality become warped and they think they're a god and they're have to do the things that they do because, again, reality's presented that to them.
Yeah.
And they obviously feel something good about what they're doing. They feel it's right. They feel like they're doing something, so they're trying to be good, but
But in
their
the
good
wrong
is
way.
bad. Their good
They're
is
good,
really,
yeah.
really bad. And actually, if you look at most people who do kind of bad things have happened to them, and it's kind of a
Absolutely.
way of them getting power back in a place where they've been kind of really badly hurt. And I don't sympathize with bad people,
Sure,
but I
of
do
course.
have to understand. Like, it's like you have to understand this stuff, and I do feel like, in a big way, AI will allow us, like, with our whole lives, we've had leaders, we've had heroes, we've put people, just normal people, broken people, in these positions of mad power. When no individual feels that they might have this perception that they're a god, and yeah, because look what's happening to me. I am Kanye, but deep down they know they're not, because they piss and they shit and they eat and they fart and they fuck up and they have bad thoughts.
Absolutely.
So I think and that's the thing that everyone has to deal with. And like, I don't think AI necessarily will deal with emotions and that situation in the same way. I think it could check us a little bit more. Not to say let's give complete control over, but we rely on systems, and these are better systems. These systems now are going to have more flexibility to be intelligent, to make more rational decisions, and for us to interact with them. So if it goes somewhere wrong, to be like, no, that's not we're not aligned there. This is, that is a breakthrough, because it's like, it's human in a way,
Yeah. The fascinating thing here, though, is that ultimately is being trained on human data and on human
This
things,
is the
right?
danger.
So our perception, everything us is going to seep in, the good and the bad. And the other side of that coin is that, well, if you don't let that seep in, and you somehow let it make its decision based on what it thinks is best, we could have a massive misalignment issue. And I never really kind of fully grasped what this misalignment issue is until somebody explained it with an analogy that just helped me kind of understand it better. And it goes something like this. So if you have a loan, a lawn rather, a lawn on your in front of your house, let's say, okay, and you decided you want to put pavements down because of whatever reason. You have a practical need to, whatever the reason is, right? I don't know. You have a kid and you want to build them a little pathway where they can run around and ride the scooter, whatever it might be, right? And so you decide to get rid of the grass and put down the pavement. You don't necessarily stop to think about the ants that you're going to kill in the process. You don't think about the homes you're
I
going
know,
to
I know this
destroy,
analogy, but
right? And
would you go and
because you
kill
don't.
those ants purposely?
No, but that's the thing. You don't do it purposefully, right? But it's that
No.
you think on such a different level of, like, there's a whole other need where that doesn't even come into the equation for you. And so
Right.
the scary thing here is that, well, what if that misalignment is there and the AI is, I mean, if we get super intelligent AI, it will be way smarter than we are, right?
Yeah.
How do you ensure that, we don't just become a thing in the way that it doesn't even think about, in a way, right?
I tell you how this is my, like, and this isn't certainty, it's just my opinion. The only way we align with it, first of all, we need to know what we want.
Come
And I
on,
don't
mate.
think we've even come round
That's a
to
big ask.
that
That's a
conversation.
huge ask.
But it's kind of like, we're scared of a dystopia, but we don't talk much about utopia.
And what that would look like. That's
Yeah.
a good. I think deep down everybody's scared that whatever utopia we come up with will end up being a dystopia, right?
Dystopia, yeah. And there's like, there's that famous painting, isn't there, which is like the Garden of Eden or Earthly Delights. Everyone's like, it's massive, you know, everyone's having the best time, but it quickly turns negative.
But what painting is that? I don't think I'm familiar with it. But yeah, share
I
it with
want
me
to say
sometime. I'd love to
Erasmus
have a look.
Bosch, but I'm not 100% certain.
Okay.
It's like things can flip
Yes.
instantly, if you, and this is kind of human nature, I think. we're not very good at being content. I think we need to work, and I think we need to progress, and we need to control, and there's like a lot of things that's just built into our DNA, and it's also part of how we're driven and educated to work and to do well, and to, you know, like it's that mentality almost needs to change a little bit, or at least the directions we're going in, to work well in these if we had super intelligent AI and loads of jobs changed, we'd have to have a slight refocus. And I think that's less office jobs, that's less digital nomad stuff. You know, I think a lot of people thought what would happen is we would have robots first doing
Yes.
yes. stupid. They would take all those jobs, and then they would take over the middle management, corporate, content planners, whatever that those were, and then they would take on creativity. But the flips happens.
That is such a good point, because that was the last thing people would have thought.
Yes,
would be creativity, right?
Yeah,
the last things like well,
intelligent. Yeah, like they.
It's like this is what defines us as humans, right?
Yeah, they think, you know, there's something extremely unique about our brain, our imagination, just all of that stuff. How we can come up with new ideas, neural networks. You know, 8 years or so, like some of the first GANs and stuff. Like, it's a breakthrough. And I think we're only catching up with this with this technology to figuring out how our brains work.
We don't exactly. I mean, hell, we're using the technology to help us understand how our brains work. It's not even that way. It's like, it's kind of like the other way around. It's nuts.
So it's kind of like, it's a hard one to say, like, how do we align with something when we haven't truly aligned ourselves? We don't necessarily know what, or we're not discussing, which is really annoying for me, because 80% of the conversations are always around issues, problems, rather
very
than
prophetic,
like, the dystopia rather than the utopia.
Yeah.
And it shows that for better or worse, we've been kind of driven towards fear and the unknown, and being scared, and that complacency in that space will prevent us from kind of interacting, taking it on board, and actually realizing that we all really have a big opportunity to like impact this change now. Every single individual, like it's a new thing. You could really be heard right now with this use of technology,
totally.
And I think the powers of be saying, "Oh my God, we need to slow this down," and like, how can we regulate this and stuff, is a fantastic, and that it's with the open source community. It's kind of a clear sign that it's in the people's hands now, and I think we really should all come together to talk about some of the crazy things that you normally would not really touch, like politics, like education, like universal basic income, like how our data is used, what that looks like, and how that could benefit us. And it's just, just the plain facts that in 5 years or so, we'll have simulated realities incomprehensible from our own, indistinguishable. You just won't know the difference.
But it's
shows that there's going to be such a change and a shift for not just the entertainment, but like, for us and our reality and how we interact, that we really need to just stop for a second, not so the government can regulate, but so we can say, right, that's the future. Let's not say it's science fiction. It's happening. How do we want to interact with those spaces? How do we want kids to be taught? Do we want universal basic income, or do we still need to work? Like, what driving factors do we have to keep us happy? Because I feel like a lot of people during lockdown were not that happy.
Hell no. I think we all realize. First of all, I totally agree with you in the bit that we need work. I think it's a biological thing. It's, like if you get hungry or thirsty, you get a bit of. It's like I don't know the exact chemistry of it, but adrenaline, serotonin, and dopamine all work, and oxytocin, I think as well, all kind of work together to get you the hell out of bed to go and get food, right? And then make you satisfied and sleepy again after you've gotten the food. And it's like that is never going to go away. And ultimately resources are resources. The way we view resources, the way we view food and water, ultimately resources are food, water, and shelter. And so, like, biologically speaking, there's a deep link between us getting up and moving. It's like quite literally the way to deal with adrenaline in your system is to just move. Like the adrenaline is meant to make us move, like physically move, right? And so I think working or doing something, it's such a deep human thing that I also agree. I don't think it's ever going to go away. And I think we need to find a way of channeling that around, yeah, I mean, with UBI, it's an interesting one because there needs to be something that keeps us engaged and happy and have fun. It doesn't have to be work,
Yes.
but it needs to feel worthy of our time, effort, and energy, right? Like whether it be community-based things or whatever it might be, there needs to be something, right? But it's a really interesting point you mentioned around like that I agree, man. I think we're all kind of scared and don't want to step into this or face it, or like either we're running away from it in some way, or we're too busy and just kind of like leaving it in the back of our brains, or we're dreading it. And then there's a few people that are actually kind of going all in and trying to figure out what's going on. But it's an interesting one because often I guess, if there's something that's scaring you or poking you in life in some way, it can be a tendency to just think, okay, let me not think about it. Not right now, not important right now, and just kind of run away from it instead of actually facing it. When the reality is facing it and really kind of going through the motion is actually exactly what the doctors ordered, right?
Totally, man. Like I feel like humans are walking to a water for the first time. They've never seen a pool, and they're freaking out because they're thinking we could drown. That all these bad things could
Which
happen.
are all possibilities, but
absolutely, absolutely. Just
but the upside is
you put in the pool, I think, and you feel the water's quite warm and it's playful, and you find as other people are doing it too. I feel like suddenly you see it for what it is, and we are still in the driving seat of all of this stuff. I think people think big techs, big gov, like they have control. No. This technology is more powerful than a lot of stuff that's out there. And that's why they're scared, because they don't know how to how do you control that? If people were coming up with spitting out new things every single day that could, change the control, that they're grappling to maintain. And I felt you felt this in politics, and it doesn't necessarily serve us. So look, I think not only are we kind of scared of the state of things and how social media and technology, we're like, technology, there's good and bad to it, right?
Yeah.
But then I think AI is like, it's intelligent, it's almost godly, and it's kind of in the abilities, like it's crazy to think of the implications. So it's a reality bender as well. So you've got these two things. You've got technology, and then you've got people's like ideas about reality and existence.
What reality is,
all this
absolutely.
deeper stuff. And I think a lot of people, when you think of the infiniteness of space, it scares you. I know a lot of people
absolutely
don't want to go there.
Yeah. It's an interesting point with the tech as well. You're right, because if you also think about it, there are a lot of people who started to really think about simulation theory after games got so good.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
I mean, for me, it's the best. I've always been a bit of a nerd, and if it's string theory, quantum theory, I've just been down a rabbit hole of physics my whole life trying to understand
what is
these things. And I think simulation theory is probably the best one at this point that's been presented. But I think a lot of people.
Simulating?
Sorry?
What? Who pressed the play button? Or what, Preston? Like, as in,
Well, I imagine the universe, like I say, our universe, we've got almost infinite amounts of suns, loads of Goldilocks zones, loads of places that will have life.
Hope so.
What is that life on that planet trying to do? A lot of it kind of go offshoots into crazy places. But then, like, birds of paradise, they're beautiful, but like, where's your buildings? Where's your technology? I don't know. There's like, we are able to, even dolphins have bigger brains than us,
Yeah.
but they're stuck. So
And
we're
they
lucky.
don't
I
have the
think
right limbs either.
part of the parameters needed was these,
Absolutely.
and I think,
And some
alongside
magical things on the way to
some magical
to
things on the
support
way
the
as well.
process.
Kickstarting synesthesia in the mind, like connecting different pathways. It was those mutations that quite quickly allowed us to communicate, which started with cave paintings, associations with noises and paintings, and bang.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Can we take a quick tangent here? Sorry,
Yeah,
because there's a really interesting thing. I am super fascinated by the fact that it was language models that got us to super creative AI. Language models, right? It's like there clearly is some sort of tie there, or maybe we're saying that we're making it there's tie, but that's how it's giving meaning to it. But there seems to be some strong tie between language and creativity.
Oh yeah, yeah,
right.
Totally. I mean, I'd say the two kind of go hand in hand. Language and what you see, and what you create. I think that really allowed us to say this is that and that is this, and make sense of the reality that we interact with, and the things that's going on inside our heads. The fact that we can then when we create language and kind of those thoughts could go to one person or another. I mean, boom, boom, like there we are. And just getting back to it, the universe has loads of these places, and if most of evolution is, for whatever reason, steering things to evolve and progress to where they start to do what we're doing now. And what are we doing? We're trying to make sense of the world around us, really, and collect data that's information through generations. It's the people who represent data that is important, that either are famous or kind of push through it forward as we kind of evolve the technology now. So when I was young, I realized that, we were going to create AI and that's going to be intelligent and all that stuff. And I was like, so technology is the next evolution. That's just very hard for us to accept. I think humans don't want to be
replaced,
second to something. But then it's completely up to us what realities we want, individually, collectively, I believe. For all we care, we could all come together and say, like, look, AI, see what you're doing. Just stick us in the loop. We want to be in this human thing. Building, like, progressing up to the point where you do your thing and just stick us in again. Because for whatever reason, humans can't accept either progressing, transcending with it, becoming like part of that, or being kind of left behind as this thing does its craziness. So it's a big shift. It is a big shift, but it's just, for me, it's even almost not our place to say this is evolution. This is evolution. This is forces of nature steering towards something. It's clearly, for good or bad, it's kind of happening. Throughout we were building atomic bombs. That is crazy technology to build. Think about AI. That was us purposely thinking, like, how can we build these things to blow each other up? But even still, when we were funding that, we were focused on that, we still managed to stop it. And
that's actually a really nice appeal. Because we could have definitely destroyed ourselves 1,000 times over if we wanted to, but we haven't done it, right? That's a really good point. That's a really, really good point. Yeah, we kind of step in and do something about it when at some point. That's a nice, it's an interesting appeal.
AI is not going to just destroy us, and there's no reason to do that.
But then could
not in our generations, at least.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're basically thinking, I'll push the can down the road. It doesn't matter. No, in our generation, we'll
No, I
be
think it's
fine. No, no, I'm kidding. Okay.
no, I think it's kind of more like, the foundations for this stuff now, and
Yeah.
specifically alignment now, and what the data we given it now, and how we reinforce and change biases within its data sets, all that stuff really is the key thing, for this being good long term. But I don't think it's necessarily like, oh my god, we have to do it right now, otherwise it won't be able to change. It's like a person. This thing is going to be like, but not just one person, loads of person. There'll be almost infinite superpower AIs.
Yeah.
And I think in the same way with humans, when you have one person with God mode on, maybe shit's bad. You have dictators and stuff. When you have loads of people with these God powers, things balance out.
Balance out eventually.
So it's really give everyone these tools, let everyone have them. Let's see how it balances out. I don't think the people who and that shouldn't mean it's filtered through these powerful places, so it should remain open to us. And
So
I'm kind of unregulated for a while.
That's an interesting one. So obviously when you mention things like that, kind of democratic, decentralized, and so on, one of the things that immediately come to mind is crypto or blockchain, right? Do you see ties, links between what's happening in that world and what's happening in the AI world? Sorry, it's catch you off guard, but
No, I'm so sorry. Yeah, 100%. I've been invested in crypto space for, I don't know, 8 years now. And mainly because I was like, oh, here's cryptography, here's something that would work with that. Because it's pointless having like super flexible AI that, is just really can connect to different things and like just sort our lives out if then the money flows through this centralized place or system. You need kind of Web3, you need blockchain, you need AI, you need decentralized, powerful systems that we interact with, and that enable us as individuals. We need to kind of take away some of this centralized power that we've needed. We've definitely needed to get to us to where we are now. But now we don't necessarily need it as much as we have before, Prime ministers and presidents, they have less impact. We don't need these figureheads to impress us, to lean things. We all know who's making the decisions and lobbying these people and getting things, progressing the things. And I just wish that I don't mind how things progress and move and shift shape, but I think we all as individuals want to feel like we're more empowered and we have more control over these things.
Certainly, like how it would be if you live in a small tribe, right? I mean, you'd have a say in the discussions and so on. So,
you go up to the person, you could tell them off if you're not happy, and but we can't do that in the city, like.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things, right? Where what's the triangle trade-off again? Where you have, is it security, privacy, and freedom? I think where there's always a trade-off. It's kind of like in engineering, you have a trade-off between time, cost, and quality. Right. So you want to do something, you want to increase one of the areas, you're going to have to take something away from somewhere else and so on. So in a way, society has a trade-off between that triangle as well of security, freedom, and privacy, right? Where if you want absolute security, be ready to give up a lot of freedom and a lot of privacy, right? And to maximize on that. If you want absolute freedom, then kind of, I suppose, a forest, live in the jungle, right? You don't have much. I mean, you've got your privacy, you've got your freedom. A little bit of privacy, I suppose, but you definitely don't have much security because a snake can come in or a spider can lay eggs on your eyes while you sleep, right? So, so it's kind of like that's sort of the trade-off. But what would be really interesting is to discuss that with the modern lens of, well, we now have systems that enable decentralized ways of doing things that haven't existed before, right?
This is it. I feel like I'm quite happy to have less privacy.
That's a really interesting point. Yeah.
I've accepted that whether I like it or not, it's already happened. There's data points on me that people know what I'm
It's almost
browsing.
too late. Yeah.
It's too late. What we didn't get an opportunity is to say, because we wanted our privacy, because we didn't know how it would look, is to really say, like, this is. I think if at that point, at the beginning of technology, like all this stuff, we would have said, okay, cool, look at everything. Big Brother's going to be watching, sort of thing. But can we all know what those things are and agree on them? But at that point, I think we're very fearful of the places, the powers that be. So it's always coming down to this, like, we're not really. I don't think many people really entrust these places to serve us. We know technology is using our data points anyway. Like elections can be like rigged, and like Cambridge Analytica, like there's just we know that we can be personally advertised to or attacked or misled. So wouldn't it be great if we kind of gave away a lot of our privacy and understood that our data could be used, but we instead of we just entrusted a new system. Like I would like to have a digital passport. I would like to have something that's kind of all in one for that, because it's like all that data exists about me. Why is it not in a decentralized place, which is mine, but also connects to a greater network, which makes it strong, powerful? Crypto, man, it's the same. And I think it's going to be it's where we put our money, it's where we put our faith, and my big fear going forward is that a lot's going to be done to grow this fear within us, to really divide us a bit more, and to make this echo chamber of people shouting at each other, like could just get worse and worse and worse.
That's a really interesting way to look at it, is that if you're too afraid, so just going back to the digital pass thing, in a way, we're afraid of having that sort of thing because we're afraid of saying, almost we're afraid of admitting that our data is available out there and that it's kind of too late for that whole privacy thing, right? So we're almost afraid of admitting it. But actually, if we just decide, if we go all in, it doesn't mean that it's going to be bad. It means that we get to actually actively and deliberately steer the conversation, the development in a way that makes sense.
There you go. And we should accept the reality we're living in, and that's just the big one. Yeah, that is the big one.
And actually affect things and affect change instead of just kind of sitting on the sidelines and complaining about it. That's an interesting
exactly.
To think about it. I guess that there's one fear though, which is that so for example, what's happening in some places around the world right now is that you've got a lot of digital things going on, digital identities and so on. Everybody's being tracked in every way, and that can really affect things. It can affect credit score. It can literally affect your life. So for if you're a friend of somebody who happens to do something bad, well, that's known and there's a digital record of it. And so how do you give a sense of security and individual freedom alongside that? How do you make sure that's still there if everything is digital? Because in a way, if you look at the progression of money, for example, and I'm so out of my depth here, man. So forgive any naivety or whatever, but I'm so out of my depth. But if we roughly speaking look at the progression of money over time, it used to be actual gold and silver coins, like legit metals that are rare, right? And then it became tied to gold in some way, shape, or form. And then that was taken away and it became just tied to whatever we believe in, and measured against the dollar or whatever, which is somehow calculated based on barrels of oil or whatever the crap they use now. I don't even know. And so now they're moving into crypto, which, to now, well, I suppose crypto is decentralized, so it's not controlled by government. So that makes it, in that sense, a safer option in that, you as an individual, you'll always have something to go back to. But the issue with just pure digital things is that, well, I think that part of the fear is that what if everything goes to shit? Right? Like what if, let's say something really bad happens, then if I have gold, or I have something physical, then that still is like, okay, well, I can actually go and trade that for something, right?
Mhm.
So I guess maybe that's where the fear comes from, of like why we're a little bit hesitant
What's the
about
backup?
moving to digital. It's the back, exactly. It's like, what is the backup if
Yeah.
networks tomorrow get shut down? I mean, the UK
Mm.
relies on a few pipelines that power all of the, what was it, the internet, or something with, I think, energy infrastructure, like relies on a few pipelines through the sea or something like that. Like, what if something was to happen, right, to that, and we have no access, let's say,
Totally.
to
I
the
think.
internet?
Be honest, my dude. There's more of a reason for things to be decentralized. Imagine right now there's a solar flare or fuck it,
Mm.
a bomb dropped on a place
Let's
that
say solar
stores a
flare
lot
and
of this value,
yeah, yeah.
or a lot of this digital information.
Mm.
Imagine there's like something horrible happens. A lot of this information that is centralized is destroyed. Um, because it's centralized, that stuff goes almost immediately on those servers.
Hmm.
If it's decentralized, it's okay.
You've got
That part of the
backups.
mycelium network might have been trampled on. Those ants might have been trampled on, but
Sure.
it's still running all the way here. And I think we're going to have, in our lifetimes, a complete digital kind of mirroring of our reality, all the data
Mm.
points kind of being gathered and used. And yes, that something could happen to Earth. And to be honest, if something happens to Earth, like
I
a
mean,
solar
we're all
flare
screwed
or wipes
anyway,
any
right? I mean,
MP, it wipes us all out. I mean, we're still going to have those problems. We're still going to
mhm.
have a great sort of reset of sorts, which would be like a mind fuck. But you could also transfer a lot of this information into space.
Yep.
So the second, if something happened to Earth and a lot of things went down, the second we can reboot things online and connect back to satellites, the information can be obtained. I
Go
think
back
that's
to
a big
normal again.
push for what they're doing on Mars and on the Moon, and it's having an offsite. I'm a filmmaker. Having an offsite backup of your hard drive.
Yeah, that
And
makes
I think like
that
if
makes
all
a lot
our
of
hard
sense.
drives
Yeah.
and information are stored in smaller spaces, it's going to be dangerous. Or smaller companies, more like the more things can be spread, the better we can support the greater whole can support itself, no matter what
Mm.
happens. And I think that's how we should kind of be thinking. Is we're all humans, we're all the same, we all want the same thing, even though we're on different paths. We all have the same fears, actually, about this stuff. And we all have a say in what we do with it.
But you're so
And I
right.
think what you said earlier really resonated with me, man. It actually gave me the tingles. You said, "Oh, we need to kind of either that or go all in," and it's like, yeah, that's it. It's going all in.
Yeah.
Um, this is not, I think for a lot of people, this might be a bad trip, but
Ha.
you've got to look at a bad trip and the elements of that make you scared or worried or whatever, and you should grow from
Find
that
the
and
lessons in that. Absolutely.
engage with that
Work through
and
it.
learn from it, and don't be worried to say to someone like, yo, I'm thinking these crazy things, because this is a crazy event for humanity, and we all need to be cool to talk about the unknown at this time, which for a long time has been reserved for like 3 a.m. party chat. Let's be honest.
That is a really, really good point. Which is why I'm so happy we're having this conversation right now, because I can push back with some of these slightly more pessimistic thoughts that I've had around AI and super intelligence, and you can push back and actually make me realize, wait a second, no, you're right. That actually, yeah, that actually makes a lot more sense, and in a way, it's actually a strength and not a weakness by having things and go that way. Um, and the other thing is, I guess it's kind of, I think part of the thing here as well is that AI and technology is something that is, to most people, quite complicated. If you're not actually involved in AI and you don't work with it, you can always be a bit scared of, oh, well, what the hell is this thing exactly? I mean, and we hear AI developers talk about crazy things and weird theories of what might be going on and blah blah blah. And it might actually be almost a bit of a deterrent sometimes
Mm.
to everybody engaging with it and talking about it. But it really helps to have someone talk about it in day-to-day terms, in things that everybody can relate to, so that everybody can actually engage in the conversation and get involved with it, which is something that I've really enjoyed
I
here.
think everyone just needs to just dip their toe in the pool, really. The sooner you kind of start to understand, let's create, break down this craziness to small little steps.
Yeah,
And I'd say Chat GPT is a great way to start, or Agent GPT, because
so what's the
at your
difference
own
between
pace
Chat
you
GPT
can type,
and
and Agent
what?
GPT.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's the difference?
Although they're very similar.
Okay.
Agent GPT is just an offshoot of it.
Okay.
So it's being built by other people, not OpenAI.
Okay.
Primarily, they were able to connect to the internet faster, or like release it out. Like GPT, and I can show you if you want. GPT-4.
They're releasing it
They're,
now, right?
they're
GPT. They're releasing the
releasing
browsing.
plugins now.
Yeah.
Which I can show you. I mean, it's fantastic. Used
Sure.
it for the first time like a week ago, and you were able to. It was mind bending.
You
were
can
able
actually
to.
share a screen here, so if you wanted to show, you're more than welcome to. But we can also save it for
Yeah,
later, and we can send links to people to check out. So don't worry about it.
yeah, definitely. I mean, let me
Brilliant.
get it up anyway. So what was great is GPT is fantastic. You can ask it all sorts of questions. Imagine it for anyone who hasn't used it. Imagine you're going onto Google, but instead of Google just kind of going, "Oh yeah, here is that information," I hope wade through it, pick one option. Hope good luck to you.
I hope it's
Instead,
suitable. I hope it's relevant.
hope it's
Hope you don't
relevant.
have to
Yeah.
check 3, 4, 5, 6 different links.
It's exactly. It's like kind of like a really good search engine. This is what you've said. This is what you kind of get. What GPT does is it takes in your question or the request. It comprehends it like a person would. It thinks about it. It looks at its language model, its understanding of loads of books and science and maths and everything, and it'll give you a very unique answer. Every time you ask it something, it will give you a different answer. So it's like engaging with a person. But it was limited to a certain extent because its models, its language models, its data went up to 2021. So 2 years missing. And because of that, it wasn't at that point connected to the internet or allowed to connect to the internet to see what's going on in stocks, what things are trending in the news, what's current affairs, blah, blah, blah. Now it can do that. You can ask it about real-time events. You can, because it can connect to real-time information, you're now just not dealing with a super intelligent person. You're dealing with a super intelligent person who's connected to the internet.
It's even better.
Not only that, there's plugins that allow you to create images. So, one of the first things I did was say, give me a story about a dog and a squirrel, an unlikely friendship in the style of Roald Dahl. And then after giving me the story, break it down into scenes as a children's book and provide images for me. And boom, I see it connecting through to DALL-E API, creating prompts for those images and creating that story in front of me.
So cool.
Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So it was
that must have been for someone who's a creative, someone who's been involved in creative directing, for so long. That must have been really interesting. Because we haven't actually even touched on your background, by the way, yet. But and I really want to touch on that on here as well, so people kind of know where you're coming from.
When I was a kid, I was just thrown into all like acting classes and singing and all sorts of stuff. I was just a real kind of like, I don't know. I liked doing lots of things and being silly. And in primary school, the guy came up to me. I was on my rollerblades, acting like a prat. And this guy came up to me and said, "Would you like to audition for a movie?" And I was like, "Yeah." Didn't even know what it was. It was a zombie film called 28 Days Later. And
oh, wow.
at a very young age, I was like thrown into, and I wanted to be an actor at that point, but I think the first time I saw Danny on set, and there were like light shafts coming through the window because they were pumping haze, and I saw the camera gear on the rig and stuff, and I was like, and everyone was really happy, and there was a good sense of like, I mean, to be honest, I worked with loads of directors since. Danny's just really good. There was a really great sense of everyone was in it together. He was asking like a runner what his opinion was for the shot and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, what a team they're working. And it was inspiring to see. So that kind of just flipped the script a little bit in my mind. and I was still acting. I did some other films and stuff, but I was like really interested in the creative process. Both my parents are artists and stuff, and my mum an artist teacher. So I was like getting into making music videos and stuff like that. And I did a documentary when I was like 18,
Wow.
19.
You started
And
the journey
that
very early, huh?
I started the journey early. I didn't do the university thing. I
Fair
went
enough.
straight into advertising. I was at Itch Films. And I worked around different production companies, game studios, kind of like, what do I want? And I landed at Mad Cow Films eventually, and I was there for 10 years, really growing my portfolio of work as a director, doing commercial work, docs, music videos, kind of everything and anything. Because I just love to learn. I love new technologies. I love creative development, and there's something about just the creative industry when you can get different teams together. That I just really love to see. I like being the idiot in the room.
I
You
love
know,
that.
I like being the foolish person, knowing that I've picked the best team, and like it's
Wow.
all gonna make sense. And when we get to work with new technology, or anything from VR to AR to drones and everything like that, when they first come about, I get really excited by projects like that. So most of my work's been, or most of the awards and stuff we've got, has been in that space,
Mm.
technical innovation, new ways, new age entertainment and interaction. So Real Dreams is an extension, truly, of that. It's me going off to just do purely that. New age, cutting edge, experimental, with a real human, like core human feeling. Like, we want people to come together. We live such a this digital age anyway, and it's really useful that we can have this chat now. There's
Yeah,
definitely uses
absolutely.
to it, but being able to get people together, I think, is really important, especially considering how far this AI stuff is going to push entertainment,
Mm.
and how much we will be happy, satisfied being in front of screens or plugged in or whatever, like you want to say. Like, if that those worlds can be so profound, so entertaining, just pull us in so much, but we know that isn't the big part of the main part of the human experience, then how can we push people together? And I really think what AI will do for like video games and entertainment is going to be fantastic for the human experience, not
Mm.
take away from it, you know?
Absolutely. And touching kind of with that in mind, you mentioned earlier, when you speak with creative directors and producers right now,
Mm,
sometimes they would think, well, okay, well, what about us? I mean, kind of, where do we fit in this picture? And you've been on both sides of this. So you've done the crazy expensive commercials for huge companies, and you've
mm,
also done you called it budget. I have no idea how much went into this, and it doesn't matter. But you said, like the
mm.
budget music video done for an artist in London, and so you've been on both sides, and now you've done the purely traditional. I love that we can now say that traditional way of doing things,
Traditional.
and
Mm,
and the AI way of doing things, and then you've done the AI and traditional, right? How's
mm.
that been like? How's that journey been for you, kind of moving across from that world to this world?
Um, it was tough because I threw a lot of my, look, I was diving down the rabbit hole kind of by myself.
Mm,
I'm showcasing. I've got this technology. I know where it's going. I know the implications. I know that I have to go with it. It excites me as much as it scares me, but I have always been driven by new things, like new technologies, new ways of thinking. So, I can't not be pulled into this thing, and it is the big one. It's where science and spirituality connect. It's many things, and I was driven. I was so excited. But equally, with any good feeling, there was like the polar opposite. I was so scared.
mhm.
I definitely pushing and an advocate for these things, even knowing full well the risks. I having to reassure lots of people, older, more professional, more established than myself, more like part of systems, you know, and they're freaking out.
Yeah.
So it's a real mixed bag of emotions, but
Wow.
and it was harder at the beginning because not many people knew what was there. ChatGPT's release changed everything because it's just the whole the internet kind of woke up to, well, what's this thing? So when that
It's the
happened,
hero in your journey. Well, not the hero. What is it? The hero's assistant? What do they call that person? In
what,
the
like
journey.
the Robin to my Batman, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, or whoever the wise one that comes in and helps you with a helping hand.
I feel like you know, I had to accept very early on that the industry that I've come to accept and understand, the traditional industry, is going to change massively.
Hmm.
And, you know, all the fears within that, I got through by also explaining to other people, yeah, but no, here's the things that we can do. Here's, look, use the technology. Look, how does it make you feel? This, can you imagine how we could implement this, or how they could implement that? Yes, 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 yes. So there's all the positives outweigh the cons. But everyone knows things are changing, and
Yeah.
that's just a fact.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, there's a tsunami coming of sorts.
Accept it and move with
It
it and
sounds
build something.
terrifying,
Or
but
no, I mean it's not
yeah,
necessarily. It's not always bad, right? I
jump on a
mean,
boat, build a boat, build your own
yeah,
boat. Don't quabble about it coming and whose fault it is.
it doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't try and build barricades to slow it down.
Hmm. Interesting.
Like, it's kind of like, you can't, this is the force of evolution and life doing its thing. We're talking about alignment for, you know, actually what we do as a generation affects every other, that's it, the rest of humanity. And such a point, such a shift in what we think we do and how reality will be and how we interact and stuff, that really what we do now does, like you said, it really changes things. It has massive effects on our alignment. So let's align. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think we're waiting for governments and places, powerful places, to do that. But I think it's actually, this is a human thing. You've got to look at AI as intelligence. This is our child. This is our collective child. For whatever reason, well, because there's lots of bad and good in our history, it's built off of all of that stuff. And we have to, like you would a kid, because it will have its own drives and wants, you have to somehow show it what ours are. And I think to gain clarity on that as a species is probably the most important thing we could do right now. And really, if you look within yourself, you find it. It's kind of peace and love. It's some simple things, you know. So you know, things are changing. The industry, how people make work, creativity is a big one to be impacted first.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of led by culture, and then like industries and like things that are sold to us kind of follow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
culture really affected first is like, whoa, well,
That's kind of big.
it's in our hands then. This is what I feel like.
That's actually a great way to think about it. You're right.
They in the tech conference that I went to for Meta, they said 80% of all people can live in the metaverse, but we don't really know what that looks like. They were saying we're leaning on the creatives. The creatives then inform the engineers. The engineers then inform us, you know? So it might be the time where the people have these radical ideas, thoughts,
I think
kind
it's
of
about time.
the dreamers can
The
will
dreamers.
really
Yeah.
thrive. Yeah.
I think it's about time. I
And
think
what's great is that can come from the whole spectrum of people, young and old, because AI is now not a technology that should, which I understand why, but should be scary for people. Like, AI, that sounds really geeky and technical, and like, how do I even
but
like?
it's not anymore.
No,
It's now accessible to
now
everyone.
it's AI. It's intelligent. You can interact with it with your voice. It's easier to work with. So that's a change. Like, and the sooner people wake up to the power of this and what we can do and how this can radically change things. But let's make it a renaissance, not a revolution sort of thing. Like, let's make it a peaceful change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if we do that, then we all have control. And all I've heard for my whole life is how we don't have control, and it's like things are changing now. So I really urge people to just grab their computer, their iPhone, jump in, look at a few tutorials. I know for a fact, because I've done it to thousands of people now, that if I sat with anyone and showed them the stuff and had a little chat, they would be so excited by all the possibilities, what can be done. You know, the fears would be there, but we go through those like you would a kid scared about trying, you know. But we should not be driven by fear at all. We should just not be driven by fear. It's what's got us to where we are now in some of the bad places, and it's what will manifest that dystopia that everyone's worried about. So, and if I really do believe collectively, if that's what we think is going to happen, it will happen.
Yeah.
And
I know what you mean. Yeah. There's like a stupid old Egyptian saying, which is basically that, like the ghost will appear to the one who's the most scared of it. If that makes sense. It was in a very stupid song. So if there are any Egyptians listening to this, I think they probably laugh right now. But but yeah, the point is, I think embracing it that definitely makes a lot of sense, and kind of just deliberately guiding it instead of sitting on the sidelines hoping that it will guide itself to a good place. We need to actually deliberately guide it. Speaking to the creative industry, speaking to creatives, I mean, I'm so happy that creatives are getting a chance to. I think in the more recent decades, the world hasn't been the kindest to creatives, and it's kind of nice to see that it's becoming kinder again to the real creative mavericks out there. We will need we will need smart rewards, and I think maybe a blockchain is the way forward here, but something to make sure that everybody gets rewarded fairly, because again, we could just end up with another situation where creators do the work and never get rewarded properly for it. But speaking to the more speaking as well to the way that things are changing on a practical level. So you moved from doing creative stuff with your hands and cameras and lenses and blah blah blah, all of it.
That's what you say, yeah.
To now moving to doing things with your hands and cameras and stuff, but also with your keyboard and a computer. Like, how much of your actual process has changed, like, on a practical level?
Oh yeah, massively. I mean, I'm still doing commercial work. I'm still doing music videos. A lot of the stuff we're doing is kind of blowing the lines between the AI stuff and the real stuff to kind of like, go between these two spaces. But a lot of it is digital now. I don't think it will be for too long.
Yeah.
I think you'll be able to go into it. Well, you could do it alone, but you could go into a studio with people, and you've got your art designer, you've got your DOP, you've got like different areas, different people in the field, and you can sit and brainstorm in a room with some computers and talk about different things and move things around, change them, visualize them. It's a whole new age for conceptualization of ideas. And I think when people can do wonderful things alone, and that's the beauty of it, is people can make probably Hollywood films in a few years or just through their computer. But I think when you come together, you're leaning off other people, and there's more of that process. There's more individual stories that are coming through. There's more of that expertise within those fields that come through. Like, I know a lot about this, but not about like that, sure. And all those technical terms, all those designers, all those, that ability. I don't have that. And that's where our skills come into play, I think. So I think there's going to still be, big companies, new age Hollywood, new age Marvel films, new age everything. And there will be small studios, big studios. It's going to redefine the whole creative industry. Advertising is going to be a lot more personal. You will be in an ad that you are watching.
Oh yeah, where do I sign?
Well, like, but do you know what I mean? Like, there's
if
absolutely. You're okay with that sort of thing, and there'll be all sorts of personalization and content created just for you.
Yeah,
and your interaction with the products that
that's
you
really
like,
exciting.
you buy. Well, yeah, it's
That's
fantastic.
really, really
You have
exciting. Yeah.
custom sneakers, you have custom, everything will feel very unique and personal, and that will allow everyone to be a lot more expressive. And this is the steps to the kind of utopia we're imagining. And through that as well, we're going to see fairer systems, safer systems for people being able to earn off of existence, really. And I kind of look at the gaming models over the years. You know, video games used to have to, I mean, you just go put coins in the thing to
Yeah,
play,
yeah,
get a
yeah.
new life. Then you bought a game. Then you rented a game. Then you bought it on, like, rented it on a subscription model online.
That's a really good
And
point.
now games
Wow.
are free and you're getting paid. No, sorry, you're playing games for free, but there's microtransactions for things inside it, like
That's
capitalism.
such an yeah. Wow.
And
Okay.
now gaming is moving to pay to play. So
Yeah.
you're getting paid to exist in these spaces,
Mm.
because we are moving to an area now, especially if we get automation of a lot of these jobs, a lot of these things that we need to survive, and humans don't necessarily need to work in the same way. Then what we'll have is a playground of sorts. And like, if we can truly do what we want, doesn't mean it's a good thing, right? More freedoms, more expression, to be paid, to kind of be able to live and have education and health benefits, all that stuff kind of as a given right. But to still be able to buy things and do things within that is a kind of good balance of the two worlds,
Yeah.
the utopia, what we know. But, people will have a shift of working. And I think if education really grew up a little bit and wasn't so industrial age, I think the generations to come won't be freaking out so much like we are, because we've been like taught for these processes, how to make a film, how things would be. And I think a lot of people feel like a bit upset that these things are coming, and they're just being able to
But
kind of
it's
do what we've done and learn how
just
to do.
change. I mean, I was
Yeah,
speaking with someone
change.
about the way that design was done back in the day, and we can't imagine. So our generation can't imagine a world before PowerPoint. But believe it or not, that existed. There used to be teams within massive consulting businesses like PwC that are called design teams. And you would go there and say, I have a meeting with X and Y client, and I need a deck that has this and this and this. And you'd sit with them and they would literally draw your deck for you.
Oh yeah, totally.
And then you'd need to print it out and then take it to present. And like, well, then PowerPoint came around. No more design team. Have things really gotten worse? No, they've actually gotten a lot better. So again, like, we come up with these new ways of doing things, and yes, we're scared because we'll need to definitely change the way that we do work in some way or shape or form. But it doesn't mean that things that will be screwed because of it. I think you're actually pretty more than fine. And it's incredible to have people like you, my friend, with building communities and companies like yours to help with that change and drive that forward and support people through it and talk about it. So circling back to Real Dreams, you've got things going right now. You've got a strong community.
Got a strong
You guys are
community building. We really want to push back it. I mean, I'm looking for funding. I'm hoping, but it's not like we're just looking for a quick fix or anything like that. The people that we have in this, they're very long term.
Sure.
They're very driven by this. This is the core of what we believe and want to change. And we feel like we have this opportunity, from building applications to all manner of things, including creative output. I'm focusing a lot more on the creative stuff now because it's what I know. It's how I can get through to people. It's how I can tell a story and get them to listen and have these conversations.
Yep.
But to be able to get some support in people who understand it equally, like that this shift is happening, and it's not just about the money. Like, the money's going to come. It's the longevity of this to benefit as many people as possible, whether it's entertainment or whether it's the harder factors within this stuff. Real Dreams is kind of my best attempt to, while this is happening, to really push that out there. And I'd say only in like the last couple of months is it really all starting to connect, to be honest with you. We've got some awards up at the Berlin Music Festival.
It's very exciting. Can't wait to hear about that, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, man. Unfortunately, I can't go now though, but fortunately, I've been out to this kind of AI camp out in California. with a
Okay.
load of my heroes within this space, and that's going to
Wow.
be able to great as well, because they're all doing what they all have their own communities, and this is a chance for us all to kind of to get together and to kind of team up in a big way. And this is every kind of person who's reached out and is making like, do you know what, really driven by this, and they've kind of been working in like the advertising industry 12 years and the head of department at Acme or whatever, and they're all making these kind of like AI driven companies. None of us truly know kind of exactly what it's going to look like. But we know what to do with it right now and how to build on it, how to entertain people, how to reach people. So we're just going to keep on pushing with a little bit of support, other people's connections, networks, to a world of kind of business, finance that is kind of new to me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
That would really be able to allow us to pull from all our strengths and have a lot more of an impact, really.
Amazing. And grow and really expand in something that's incredible down the line. And I mean,
Yes.
obviously, you don't have to touch too much on this now, but we spoke briefly of some rough plans or just ideas of where you might want to take it down the line. It all sounded very exciting, and
Yeah.
I don't want to put you on the spot and make you say anything now, so
Honestly,
you don't need to. But
things shift and change, but
exactly,
what we really want to do is keep on working with the emerging technologies.
exactly, yeah,
You know, to quickly show people what's out there, what's possible,
yeah,
so that there's an awareness there. But really, I think to build a platform for creatives,
yeah,
that serves as almost like an institution for them, paving the way for how we regulate, how we differentiate between what's AI generated and not, how we nurture people who are young in this space with the expertise of the professionals, so that process isn't lost, so that understanding's not lost.
yeah.
I'd like to build not only like MTV, like a new age creative network with that like cool content, and to be in advertising, to be in music, to be in all sorts of areas of entertainment. But I think we all really like the idea of setting up like a BF AI or of sorts, like
I love it,
an
mate.
institution for us all, so that we can support each other. Because I think at the moment there's a lot. It's everyone's fighting for themselves online, and there's a lot of fear about who owns what and IP and all that stuff. And I think those
Conversation is
discussions
needed.
need to be had
Yeah,
with the makers and the new age creators.
yeah,
I think those people need to come together in a space where, and the best part of Real Dreams was when we had the open workshops, we could get people to come in together, experts from all over the place and people who are just learning, and they could just very quickly see how all this stuff works and communicate what we should do. So to have those two strains, I think would be fantastic, because it would allow us to influence people to have fun, content
absolutely, man.
creation, entertainment, but also to get involved in the slightly more political and, the deeper parts of this, which kind of affects the future generations.
Absolutely, mate. And that sounds so exciting. I think, spot on. You guys are literally at the forefront, and if anybody would be the best person to do this, or the best group of people to do this, having spoken with you and having looked at what the work that you guys are doing and how engaged your community is, it seems like definitely the right people at the right place at the right time kind of thing. So, man, I
Appreciate
really,
it.
really do wish you the best of luck with all of that. I hope it goes so well. And if anybody's listening here that's interested in this area or has connections in those areas as well, obviously, yeah, we can facilitate connections and they can reach out. If people want to find out more about Real Dreams, they can go to realdreams.io. Is that right?
Yep. Or Instagram as well, where we put up a bit more of our content.
Cool.
We're actually revamping the whole website now, because there's so much stuff that we've done, events we put on, but we haven't put it all up online. We're going to coincide that with a launch of a few films that we've been kind of cooking up, and after some of these events and meetups we've got. And I think at that point we're going to be really looking to take some bigger strides with this all, because we've laid the foundations, you know, and we didn't want to get ahead of ourselves, but there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of things that could be built, and there's a lot of energy for people to just driven like a force of nature to be doing that now collectively. So, you know, let's go all in, so to speak.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Wow. Well, listen, one thing I say to the incredible people that I speak with on here is that, you know, I'm always looking forward to having multiple conversations over time and
Yes.
just, you know, see the growth and see the journey, and whatever the journey goes, my friend, wherever it takes you, I'm sure it'll take you to great places. Yeah, dude, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today, for doing
Absolute pleasure.
for making the time for it. Conversation was incredible. Honestly, man, I'm inspired. There's so many takeaways. I've made a whole list of things here, a whole list of notes of things that I'm going to look
Fantastic,
into
man.
and
Well,
take
look,
away.
at least there's
So
something to take away from it. Man.
there's
It's
always
good.
there's always takeaways, and I can't wait to be back in London so we can have a chat in person
Definitely.
as well. We can meet and go
Definitely.
for a coffee or a drink or whatever. If you
Yeah.
want to come out to Abu Dhabi at any point, you have a friend here as well, so please come and
Hey,
join
man,
sometime.
look, you know, I'll never say no to an invite.
Fair enough.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll meet soon, man, and I'm happy to jump back on one of these again, you know.
Definitely.
And to anyone that's listening, you know, just what you're waiting for, just jump on it. If you haven't, just jump on ChatGPT or one of the tools.
We will actually put a link to ChatGPT in the description just for you. Is there any anything else you want to say, by the way, to listeners? Anything else you want to check out? If there's, you want to put a cheeky plug in, this is a good time to do it as well.
I mean, so I've just released a little film, if I plug something, a little film called Carnival of the Ages. You can find it on YouTube. If you type in AI film, Carnival of the Ages, I put it on LinkedIn and some other things, an explanation of how that was created. But it was the first text to video film that I've done, and I trained an AI voice as well. So we got some old sounds from for someone from the Twilight Zone that I loved from my childhood, and I brought it through for this video. And what you're saying is, I mean, if you consider the first image generation stuff happened like less than a year ago, what you're saying is in less than a year, we've gone from the early DALL-E 1 stuff to this text to video stuff, which is quite close to being photorealistic. And so all I want people to do is maybe watch that. Sure. And just to think, okay, if that's where we are from 0 to 1 year, where are we going to be in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years? Even if you don't put a timeline on it, it's possible for us to make all these kind of infinite realities and stuff. And that's going to affect us all, what we do, how we function. If we can have everything for us, how do we navigate that space? And I think mentally people need to prepare for kind of having that utopia, that heaven, that everything. And collectively, we should look after each other from going too deep into greedy places, or, you know, like, and that's one thing I'd like, if people will watch that film and kind of just take in, well, wow, this is where it is now. Think about what the industry is going to be like in a few years. And if you're in the creative space, what your part in that's going to be, if you're worried about it, just reach out to one of our communities, you know, reach out to Real Dreams.
Absolutely, mate. We'll leave a link as well for that in the description. Thanks so much for sharing that with us.
No worries, man.
Justin, can't wait to chat again soon, my friend. Can't wait to hear all about your California trip and about the Berlin Festival as well. I hope that all goes to plan. We'll celebrate together when I'm back in London. And yeah, we'll speak again soon, my friend. Thanks.
Mo, it's been a pleasure. Cheers, bro.
Cheers. We hope that you liked the episode. This podcast was sponsored by QFind, a hiring platform that matches candidates with jobs and employers based on many factors that ensure longer-term alignment. It goes way beyond package and salaries and take into account much, much more than that to ensure a happy working environment for everybody. To find out more about this podcast and to see further releases, we'll be announcing them at the @qfinds.io Instagram page, as well as on the qfinds.io website, as well as from my own personal Instagram page and my own personal LinkedIn. All information you need that we spoke about in the podcast or this information mentioned here will be mentioned below in the description. So take a look, visit those links, and if you like anything or want to get in touch, please do. And lastly, stay tuned for more. Have an amazing week ahead of you.